This is one Fresno resident's story worthy of recording and sharing. Magdalena Nagy is now in her 99th year and has been here in the Central Valley for over 6 decades. Her life chapters are interesting to family and friends, but they also provide a story for all of us. In this third chapter, we will follow Magdalena and Louis as they evacuate his military medical unit to Vienna and serve the wounded there until the hospital is abandoned as the Soviets approach. Pregnant, Magdalena walks with Louis from Vienna into Bavaria with nothing but the clothes they were wearing.
So next morning, Louis went again to the barrack and find out when does the train has to leave. And they said, not yet. Wait, maybe it's tomorrow. So as day went by, it took 3 days waiting time. And two times before that also we went out to the train because it was such a touch and go. And always mother came with us. And all the time she was crying. And she said so many times, please don't go. He will come back for you. He will come back for you. And I said, oh, mother, I would like to go with him. I cannot help it. I would like to go with him. And then I think so. I was too young to realize. I was a little bit even so happy. And I said, I was even saying, Wien nur du allein. I was so happy to go to Vienna because at that time in my life, I never been to Vienna. So during the war even, that little thing made me happy. And then finally the next day, the train really started, so we had to get up the train. There was another problem. On the train, there was not enough room. So they sat down Louis and they said, well, they are newlyweds, she just should sit in his lap. And there was, of course, as he was joking also and made funny faces and so, and then it went through a joke, and meanwhile the train was slowly leaving, and my mother was waving and crying, and it was between heartbreaking. I don't know. I was perhaps also a little bit too young to understand what's going really on. Is it really war or really a wedding after? And then the train left, and my mother I didn't see anymore. Then I really started to cry. And suddenly, after 10 or 15 minutes, the train had to stop, and they told everybody out and go down on the train side because the flyer coming out and they have heavy bombs inside because that was already through the radio announced. So we had to go down and lay down on the ground and wait until all the flights went over because they went exactly toward Budapest. And then they said, go on, go back on the train. And the train just went on toward Vienna. If it stopped again or we had to go out again, I don't know, but as we arrived in Vienna, we just stayed in a train station and we were left there for a day or two, and the train station name was Aspang Bahnhof. and there we had to stay at least for 1 or 2 days. I don't know how many other refugees who were coming to Vienna, how many others were there, but we were there and we just had to stay there until we were then ordered to go to one of the hotels, which one was then named as Krieg's Lazareth. Hotel Hübner was a nice big hotel, but it completely was transferred as a hospital. And the wounded soldier was coming and coming in, many of them already coming wounded soldiers, and was as to that hotel. And then we got a room there, and so we could stay there. And Louis was ordered to stay with a doctor who was also at that time called in as a soldier. He was a heart surgeon, and his duty was to leave the Hotel Hübner Hospital to go to the downtown other hospital where he was looking for other wounded soldiers, and Louis had to be going with him to be his helper. Then it came a little bit easier time. Louis had to get up always in the morning and go downtown. So his doctor name, who was half of the size of my husband, he was a very, very famous Hungarian surgeon, but he was called in as soldier, so he had to do his duty. And he said, Lajoskám, 6 o'clock in the morning we start and be ready. I know you are a youngly married couple, but 6 o'clock start. And so next morning, 6 o'clock came, and who was not ready? Louis was not ready, and there comes the knock on the door. Lajos, are you ready? Yes, sir. And he jumped out and put things on himself, and he ran, and he said, he left, and they went downtown, and when the siren came, they had to go in the downtown. In Vienna there was a downtown, those high bunkers. Yeah, high bunkers. You had to go up in the bunker. We had to go down to the cellar in the bunker. But in downtown they had to go up in the bunker. And so in the evening they came home, and then we had a little leisure time, and we went out to restaurant, and we met other German people and Austrian people in the restaurant, and we even met friends. Sometimes some friends even invited them to their house. And so here and there we had really good time between hard times in Austria. And Louis was a very big joker, so when he was asked to give a little bit life for those sick soldiers, he showed then all his tricks with his finger, that's his broken finger, and so many tricks. And there was those Hungarian lots of tricks and shows which one he always told in Hungarian to the soldiers, and they laughed and laughed and laughed, and that was like vitamin for the sick soldiers when they heard him talking, and they really, I could hear through the rooms how much laugh they had and happiness. Then meanwhile, I was recruited also, because otherwise, if they find out that I don't work, then they take me to the German woman worker. So they gave me a job. I had to go from sick room to the other sick room with the doctor and write up what he says, what is the wrong thing with that soldiers. So I just didn't like to look, because sometimes those soldiers looked a little bit really messy and so, and I just wrote down, he has to do this, and so many fevers. And then we went on from one bed to the other bed until the visit was over. And that was my work at that time in the Austrian hospital. The hospital was the Kriegslazarett, the hospital, the Hübner, was almost full of capacity with soldiers. They had to really move. I remember now, really, I remember some soldier had to really move, which one were a little bit easier, had to move out because the new ones came in and they needed desperate help. And the war came on harder and harder. And one night, because we had the sirens also now 3 times a day, right now we find out that 3 times we were bombed from one side from US, one side from Soviet, and from one side from I don't know, because the Wiener Neustadt was completely started to be very much bombed out. And one night I remember I was really on the floor and grabbing, my neighbor was also on the floor, and I hold, because Louis was downtown, and I was grabbing to him, and I was shaking because the whole floor was shaking, because Wiener Neustadt was so very, very close to the Hotel Hübner hospital, and that was so very scary. And then very soon the hospital had to be emptied because it became a German order, because everything what was available in supply in the kitchen, we just saw, I remember we saw from the window that the German soldier came and took all the supply out, all the food, meat, and just with trucks and trucks taken away, because it was emptying and going toward where still were German was afraid, or I cannot tell why they did that. Maybe they are thinking that they can still save all those things. If I think today, they might already afraid that America will come soon anyway, and they will be taken away from there. And suddenly, the hospital also left, gave an order that all those sick people who are able to walk, it's no matter what kind of wound they have, but if they are able to walk, please leave the hospital. Please go toward west, because the hospital is closing, because it will be taken over. And there was a very nice doctor who was also called in as a soldier. He was a woman doctor, and he was coming to me, and he put his arm around me and he said, "Magdika, I think you are pregnant. I wish I could examine you, but there was no time for it. I wish, please be very, very careful. I will talk to your husband. Be very, very careful and go, and God bless you, and go, but go to the west. Go to the west. This hospital will be closed, and I stay, because no matter what, I tried my very best, because I want to go back to my wife to Budapest, and I try my very best. And I know I cried because he was so nice to me, and we left, and then we were on the road by foot, and we left. Sometime during this time, he knew we had to leave, and he made a box, because we had some little belongings what we could gather and bring out from Budapest, because my mother wanted us to bring it with us. But I had a zipper big bag, which one I always had Hungarian money in it, which one Lajos Bácsi gave me for my wedding, for our wedding. And I had some cigarettes, because I know cigarettes is always good if we like to treat something, because there are always smokers who like to give something for it, or we could get help. And Louis tried to put together a box, a wooden box, and put some handle on it, and also some rifle on it, that we can roll it. And we started out, and the good doctor, he waved to us, we waved back, and we left. And not too much longer until the whole thing broke down, and we had to live on the street. And the street was littered with all kinds of refugee stuff. Everybody left things on the refugees. Refugees was all over refugees, just over the west and west. And we were not sure where are we going, just going and going and going. That was strange, yeah. It's hard to remember, but once we got a strange help, and he was helping us. It was a man, he was helping us, and he said, there is a farmer's hof, a farmer's hof. We can knock the door. I know those people, and I know they let us in, because it was already late night, and we were very, very tired. What happened? They gave us a room to the night, and they gave us a bed, and so we laid in the bed, and then there was the man, and I was so afraid that he leave us, and he said, we have one more room in the bed, stay on that side also, because I was so scared he was leaving, and then we don't have that right from him further. And Louis said, yeah, just stay here. And he gave us a light right further next day. But that I don't like to remember on those things, but that happened. That we stayed there in a farmer's place, but actually they were kind to us because we had to sleep a little, but we were very tired. I was very hungry, and there was a store, and I went in, and at that time the radio said Roosevelt died. There was no other food, just cottage cheese, but I was happy to have a little cottage cheese. We already had to leave Hungary, we had to leave already Austria. We went through Passau, we came to Passau, and in Passau I thought we can stay, and then I went to the Wohnungsamt, and I knocked on the door and opened the door and said, Grüß Gott, and then a loud screaming voice said, there is no Grüß Gott here. There is only Heil Hitler. I got so scared. I got away from the door and left. And that was in Passau. And I left Passau. And we just came on walking with all the refugees toward the west and west, until on the road somebody picked us up in a car and asked us, do you want to have a ride? And Louis said, of course, if we can go toward the west, we would like to come. Go sit in and just sit in and try to just squeeze together and sit in. And as we went on the road further and further, there was a knock on the window, and this German soldier knocked on the window. Do you have any weapons in the car? And Louis said, no. And then she said, alles raus, everybody out, I have to check it. And he found a pistol, and he said to my husband, I hau dein Schädel, your head together. Why do you lie? And then we left the car, and he didn't do anything. He just screamed at us, and then we left and went toward, and then more and more refugees on the road. And there came also the train full of refugees, and there was a train stop. So, and he pushed me up on the train. Go, go, I will follow, just go on. But many refugees came right after me, and he still was there. And the train started, and he was still down there. And I scared, Louis, Louis, come. You don't worry, don't. And the train already, and then on the last area, I saw him jumping up, and he was on the train finally. What a relief that was. We had a long stretch on the train. I think we arrived then in Ingolstadt. In Ingolstadt, Louis got right away, go to the hospital and said that his refugees from Vienna, the Kriegslazarett, and they said right away, yes, you have a place here right away, and take up your place, and then there is a little lager, and you can find there a little place for you and for your wife, and then you come and say what is your duty. And I remember we got then a little corner, which one was cut off with some blanket here and there, and one bed we had, and I had to tell a little joke. I find even a broom so I could sweep a little bit the corner, because it bothered me that it's full of dust, and so I swept a little bit over there, and Louis went for his job, and I waited just in that room. And that was very interesting, because at that time we already were there 1 or 2 days, and we were still already there, and suddenly the U.S. Army came in. The U.S. Army was right at the doorstep and looked in there, and then when they said, Louis, come here, come here. And he went right away. Speak English? Louis said, I don't think he spoke English, but he asked, and he said, there was also a music band already in the hospital, which one was able to play music, because they were also wounded soldiers, but they were already okay, and they played very nice music. And then the soldier said, hey you, music, come. And then suddenly, his name was Teglash, Dr. Teglash, and he was the manager of that Hungarian Kriegslazarett at that time. And he said, Louis, please tell the soldier that I am here, and he cannot ask those soldiers come here, because they have to do what I tell them. And then Louis told him, and he said, hey you, America is here. Know you, because they talk broken English, because they know those Hungarians don't understand it. So they talk, know you, America is here. America is boss. Music, come. And right away they put all the music together. Come with me. And they had to recruit the 5 or 6 people, which one played all those American new songs, you know. And they took them right away to the first club where they could make music and sing. They took them. And then Teglash, that was his name, I said, Louis, you cannot do that. He said, what can I do? I'm sorry, I cannot help. He said, he's the boss. They want him to go right away with the music, you know. And later he became a manager of that. But that comes a little bit later. Then one soldier came and brought a big box of cookies and gave it to Louis. For you. And then I was back in the room, which one really was just in the corner. I hear and see everything from the inside, you know. And Louis came in. Look, what I have for you. I have good cookies. And I said, oh, how nice. And then I opened it, and it was all those saltines. I took me in so shock. It was, yeah. So that's what we got, all those crackers, you know. There was the other soldiers, and certainly on the first floor, the wounded soldiers who were able-bodied or what, they looked out the window. And the first soldier, one soldier who saw one on the window, poof, and that was the saddest thing. Which one? I think so. That is not allowed when it's already occupied. When it's already occupied, he couldn't. He's not supposed to kill one more soldier. That's what we all was debating at that time. That was absolutely not right from the American side to kill that soldier, because we are already give ourselves, you know. And then from then on went on that Louis had to go what that soldier told him. And he went away, and then he said, Dulika, don't worry, I come back. And so it was. Then he came back.